Hey guys, it's your Choose to Win coach, Michael Marchand, as well as your realtor and San Antonio broker here. Just wanted to jump on today again. Something that I've been focusing on recently is limiting beliefs. Um, Now, I'm going to explain in just a second what I mean by limiting beliefs, but in my experience, this is something that everybody I have ever met has in some form or fashion. For me, I had a lot of limiting beliefs, and over time, that's something that I've had to work on is eliminating those limiting beliefs and kind of retraining my brain and my confidence and everything else just to allow myself to be the person that I was meant to be, to believe in myself enough that I would attempt things or do things that I didn't previously think I was capable of because of those said limiting beliefs. And I want to cover three things in this video today. So, limiting beliefs is kind of my general topic, but first off, what are they? So very specifically, what is a limiting belief? How do you define it? What does it look like? Where did they come from? Most of us have limiting beliefs, and there's a good chance you don't even know where they came from. It could be something from your childhood. It could be something as simple as, you failed at doing something one time, so now you forever think that you can't possibly do that. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into where these beliefs might have come from. And then lastly, how do you get rid of them? Or if you can't completely get rid of them, at least start the process of reducing them and kind of reducing the power, the control that they have over you. Because as long as you have limiting beliefs and you're always going to run into obstacles, and if you don't know how to handle those, then those can very easily become limiting beliefs. And I don't want that for you guys. I want the best for everybody that's out there. And I know that limiting beliefs are going to hinder you in doing great things. And I know everybody that's watching this is capable of doing great things. You are made for great things. And if we can get to a point where we believe in ourselves, or we have people around us that believe in us enough to push us to take those chances, to take those risks, to do those things that may be uncomfortable, then I think we'll find out our true potential and we'll really make a difference in this world. So, jumping in, limiting beliefs is one way to refer them. You can also call them lids. I've heard them referred to as drunk monkeys. So, a limiting belief is all about mindset. Now, it starts up here, obviously. If your mindset's not right, then you're never going to get to the point where you actually take action. So, limiting beliefs are like lids. We put a ceiling. We have gotten this far, but we can't go any further. Or I accomplished this, but I'll never be able to accomplish this. The drunk monkey analogy, it's the little drunk monkey or the devil, maybe whatever you want to call it, sitting on your shoulder, just constantly in your ear telling you can't do it, can't do it, can't do it, can't do it. So instead of listening to him, let's try to isolate where these beliefs even came from. That'll help us when we go to combat the negative beliefs and help us readjust our mindset to the fact that we can do these things. Maybe we can't do it right this second, right here, right now, but we can take the first step towards being able to do that at some future time. And that goes back to my last video where we were talking about goals, failure and success. That can be very closely tied into limiting beliefs because for a lot of people, fear of failure keeps them from doing something. So it's not even maybe a logical thing. If you break down fear, there's a definition out there that it's false evidence appearing real. So fear, false evidence appearing real. It's not real, but in your head, it's real enough that it's debilitating, it's destabilizing you to the point where you're not going to take action on that specific thing. And that's what I really want to focus on is it's helpful to know where these thoughts came from, where these beliefs came from. And like I said, they could be any number of places. Sometimes you can't even pinpoint where they came to. So I'll give you an example from my own life. One of the limiting beliefs that I grew up with from probably age 14, 15, some kind of early teens on was that I would never own my own business or I would never be my own boss. I would always be working for somebody. And where that started was out of a complete place of love. Like it wasn't intended negatively at all. But my parents had a conversation with me about like jobs, careers, about things that I wanted to do in the future. And they felt that my qualities would best be served in something like nursing, something more structured, something where I have a stable income, and something where I didn't have to make the rules or be in charge of too much because I had at that point in my life a kind of a pattern of not following through with things, but I was also 14. And that's something that's always stuck with me. My first job out of high school was going to school with my EMT license. I went to school and got my EMT license and got a job as an EMT driving around on an ambulance. From there, I went and got my nursing license, went to nursing school. From there, I joined the military and then went into radiology. So up until I got into real estate about 6.5 years ago now, I had always had that belief, and I never would let myself venture out of my kind of my comfort zone or my safe space of that box that I had been put in. And again, it wasn't intended to keep me back. It wasn't intended to bring me down or limit me in any way, but that is the effect it had on me. It was one of those things that I took that and I carried that with me through the rest of my life. Maybe not even so much on a conscious level, but it was almost as if it wasn't an option, so I didn't even consider it. So it took me a long time, and quite honestly, the story of my journey from medical into real estate was one where my company got downsized and ended up going bankrupt. So I literally got kicked out on the street and had about 6 months of unemployment where I was going to figure out what the heck I wanted to do. At that point, it was one of those things. Like, I had to make a decision. Am I going to keep doing the same thing that I knew for a long, long time I didn't like? Like, I love helping people, but the capacity that I was doing it in was not something that was fulfilling for me. Or am I going to go out and, do something else? So I had been at that point, I had been studying for my real estate exam. So I went ahead and took my exam and I went and ended up getting a job as a realtor. So anyway, that is the story of me getting into real estate. But I say all that to say that just because you have a limiting belief and just because maybe you've always had a limiting belief doesn't mean that it has to stay there. Now, my circumstances were such that I kind of had a kick in the pants, and maybe, not everybody gets that. But if you're watching this video or you have somebody in your life that cares enough about you to speak the hard truths to you, then take the time to listen and at least acknowledge the possibility. So, the Flea Trainer, this is an example that some of you may or may not have heard of. But the concept is that if you put a bunch of fleas into a jar and put the lid on, the fleas are going to bounce up and down. They're going to bounce up and down until they're going to bounce up and down until they hit the lid. They're going to keep bouncing. And eventually they will bounce up and they will bounce right to the point where the lid would be or right to the point where the lid is, but they won't actually hit it. So they'll just jump up right below the lid. And eventually, once they get to that point, you can actually take the lid off. And the fleas have put that limit on themselves of where that lid used to be. So they will no longer jump out of the jar. You can literally take the lid away with the fleas in there, and they have imposed that limit on themselves, and they will not jump out. So there's an experiment around social interaction and social pressure. And it involved a bunch of monkeys. So they had like 8 or 10 monkeys that were in a room. And in the room, they had a pole with some bananas at the top, a big old nice looking thing of bananas for these monkeys. So monkeys, bananas, you can kind of see where this is going. But what they did was they took the monkeys, put them in the room, and then they were standing outside with a hose. And every time the monkeys got about halfway up the pole towards the bananas, they would spray them with cold water. That would freak the monkeys out and they'd run away. So they kept doing this time and time again until eventually the monkeys no longer even went towards the pole or tried to go up it because they had been conditioned that they were not going to get up it and that they were going to get sprayed. So the discomfort of being sprayed was enough for them to put this limit on themselves that they could never get to those bananas. And the crazy thing about this is that one by one, they started swapping the monkeys out from the original monkeys that had been there at the beginning and gotten sprayed till eventually all those had cycled out. And every time a new monkey came in, that new monkey, which had not been sprayed, would go over, try to climb the pole, and the other monkeys would immediately pull him down. So they did this over and over again. They'd swap another monkey out. The same monkey that hadn't been in there before would try to go up the pole. The other monkeys that were would pull him down. And they did this so much, they got to the point where the monkeys that had been in there had all been swapped out. So not one of the original 10 monkeys was in there, but every time a new monkey came in, they would try to pull him down, even though those monkeys themselves had not experienced getting sprayed. Just the pressure and the social situation where all the other monkeys were telling him that no, you can't get up there, you're going to get sprayed. That belief or that ceiling or that lid, whatever you want to call it, that had been imposed by the previous monkeys who had gotten sprayed was now transferred to every other monkey that subsequently came in. So just because somebody else experienced something and had maybe a horrible or a bad experience doing it, that doesn't mean that you are going to have that same result. It doesn't mean you're going to have a great result necessarily, but that's kind of the whole point, is that you don't know unless you try. That takes me to my next point. Now, how do you get rid of your limiting beliefs? Maybe it's not possible to get rid of them overnight, right away, but it is something that you can start the process of giving them less control. And similar to what we teach in Choose to Win, small habits made consistently have huge results. So if you take a small change in something that you have a limiting belief on right now and use that as a baseline and consistently build, then you would be amazed at the things you can accomplish that you would have never believed or given yourself credit for possibly doing before. So Zig Ziglar has a saying, do it and you will feel like doing it. And the whole point of that is sometimes we get into this analysis paralysis where we get so stuck in our own thinking and so stuck in the process and what it's going to look like. Will we succeed? Will we fail? What can go wrong? That we never actually go out and do it. So sometimes it's going to be horrible the first couple times you do it and you may really, really dread it. But if you're consistent with it and you keep doing it, then eventually you will feel like doing it. Now, there's a story that Zig Ziglar tells, the BAM method. So it's block and a mailbox. And basically, what this is when Zig Ziglar was learning to run or getting back in shape, he wanted to start running again. What he did was the first day he went out and he ran one block. So the next day he went out and he ran a block and then he added one mailbox to it. So a block and a mailbox. And he kept doing that consistently. Every day he would run out and he would run one mailbox first, a very small, very incremental change. But over the next couple months, that led to the point where he was running several miles. In doing this, he eventually actually got up to about 5 miles straight, where he had started running literally one block. And then by adding the increments of a single mailbox, he was able to build up his endurance to run many miles. And that's kind of the whole point, guys, is that you're not going to get rid of this belief, whatever it is, whether you've had it a long time, whether it's something that you have no clue where it came from or how you got it. It's something that is going to be incremental and something that will change over time if you're consistent. So it's not about immediately eliminating that negative belief or that ceiling or that lid, whatever it is. It's about starting the process of changing. And the more you do it, the more you'll feel like doing it and the more momentum you'll gain. Once you actually start seeing some results, then that's when the real momentum kicks in, because you're going to have a whole nother mindset around that and your belief is automatically going to shift. Now, that's not to say that you should stay there, but continue working on it, continue working on it. That will give you the motivation and give you the confidence that you need to go out and then tackle something bigger. So pick just one thing, whatever it may be right now. And this is in closing here, guys. Whatever it is that you're struggling with, whatever limiting belief, whether it's something related to your physical, your financial, your mental, your spiritual, any of the seven spokes, any area of your life that you're struggling with, there's probably some limiting belief. What I want you to do is go ahead and write that down and try to find one small step in the right direction that you can make. So find one action. And the whole point here is action, because limiting beliefs are preventing us from taking some kind of action. So if we can find a small action step that we can take towards accomplishing that thing that we're selling ourselves we can accomplish, whether it's a physical goal of running and you just add one mailbox, whether it's a financial goal, maybe you're trying to get an emergency fund, maybe you're trying to pay off debt, whatever it is, find the small increment achievable step that you can take and then go out and do that consistently for the next week. I want you to give 7 days where you don't worry about anything else related to that limiting belief except doing that small incremental step that we set. And then after you do that consistently for a week, let's go ahead and add a little bit more to it. add something else. So if you're doing something physical, you can increase the weight by a certain percentage. If you're going for cardio, you can increase the, as Zig Ziglar did, the mailboxes, add mailboxes. Find something that works for you and get out there and just do it. It's never going to be simple. It's never going to be comfortable, but that's the great thing, is that being uncomfortable is where the growth truly happens. If you're staying in your comfort zone all the time, then there's probably not a lot of growth going on. And that's not how I want to live. And that's not how I want you to live. I want you to go out there. I want you to be, do, and have more today so you can be, do, and have more tomorrow. And that, guys, is my speech. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe. I am putting these videos out weekly, so I want you to come back the same time next week. And hopefully you've been consistently doing that small change that we talked about since the last time. So love you guys. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, email me, shoot me a text, leave me a comment, whatever it is. All my info is on the final slide here. Anyway, guys, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.